A very good morning to you all. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
It's a beautiful Thursday morning from here in Lagos. I'm Kaide Fikile.
As we say in Africa, in some parts of Africa, hope you didn't see the rain.
I actually saw it.
I'm Ayomakide, good morning and welcome.
So that actually means what? That it turned out well.
No, I mean, it rained, it was cool, had a, someone said finally.
But what about the other parts of
rain
the
in
country?
Lagos.
Oh, yes. It's been really hot. I've been seeing 39, 38, 40. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, are we baking bread? But finally, it rains.
Climate change is real, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we've got Mr. Wale Fatade joining us this morning. He's the commissioning editor of the Conversation Africa to take us through some of the dailies, the ones we do have this morning. Good morning, Mr. Fatade.
Good morning, Kimberly. Good morning, Kaude.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ayo. And good morning, dear viewers.
Like I said, I hope you didn't see the way.
He's actually abusing my people because that's a direct translation from the Yoruba language.
Oh, dear. All right, then. Well, let's start off with The Guardian today. Oh, yeah, look at that. They're focusing on the theme for the day. Who knows how long more this will feature. Labour threatens to shut down economy over minimum wage. To resist moving wage to concurrent list. Vows to end lawmakers' careers, in plural. Speaker promises to address workers' complaints. So it is a big one, and it's all over the place. Perhaps, has it been a long time coming, but anything new in terms of approach or anything for you on this one?
Well, I think we cannot be cherry-picking aspects of federalism that we want. Is it that we are a really federal state or we are not? And so that's why I support moving wages away from the, it should be a concurrent matter. Because if I'm hiring you, I reserve the right of what I want to pay you. You are my staff. And I've been asking. I mean, we all know the internally generated revenue of each state, the one accrued from the federation account, everything. So why must a gentleman in Rivers, a gentleman in Yobe, or even Osun State, any the same like a gentleman in Lagos or Rivers? It's wrong. But I agree to another thing again. The National Assembly must set a minimum wage level, as we have in other federal states, that this is the minimum wage per hour. You should not pay below this. But anything after that is left to respective states to determine what they will pay their workers. And I think it's a highly an overestimation of the importance of labor or labor unions, thinking they will end the careers of National Assembly members. If they're able to do that, they should have done that quite a while ago.
So that's in principle, if it does apply, how come that, because that's part of the argument Labour put forward, the governors, we hired them, they all earn the same thing?
Then we actually need to talk about that too. I support that. All governors should not earn the same thing. In the United States now, the salaries of the senators are paid by their respective states. So they are not all on the same pay. So those are issues. We can't be cherry-picking federalism. And so if we are going to start with this, so be it. All governors should not be on the same wage level. I agree.
But isn't that also putting a question mark on some of the agencies of government that determine those salaries? The RMAFC, for instance, Mokwa calls them RAMFAC. Isn't that also going to kind of say, you know what, you guys have no jobs no more, right? Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Committee, who determine the salaries? What happens to that?
They should only fix salaries of federal workers. I mean, it's wrong for the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Allocation Committee to be fixing salaries of people you are not going to employ. And that's the issue. I mean, it's the same thing. Another analogy for me is what you have with universities, whereby you talk about full autonomy or you are not having autonomy. I mean, University of Ibadan is not the same thing as University of Uyo. You can't be on the same salary. It's not done anywhere.
But they're all federal universities.
Pardon me?
They're all federal universities.
Where at the same level.
Oh.
So because you are correct, they have one employer at that level.
All right.
But what about state universities?
Which also has to fight for.
Yeah.
And when they get the wage, it cuts across.
Across everybody.
So who knows how we'll approach that moving forward. But another matter of in contention as well. Return £4.2 million Ibori loot to Delta State. Reps orders FG. Look at the riders now. Clark gives FG 7-day ultimatum to hand over money. Falana urges FG to tow same line when they return monies to Plateau by Yelsa. Serap seeks clarification over planned use of Ibori loot, says over $600 million Abacha loot was earmarked for same projects. Pay returned money to Delta varsity students, Showore says. So, different perspectives on this one now.
Again, it comes back to the same argument I made in the earlier story. We either are a federal state or we are not. And so I stand with those who said the money should be given back to Delta State. It's their money. That's where I stand.
Even the governor said, well, it's going to go for this, and that project.
Yeah, but because the era of an omnipotent or how do I put it now? Omniscient everything federal government is what we should fight against. You can't be everywhere. Fine, the agreement was signed between a sovereign state as in Nigeria and Britain, but then the money was taken out of the treasury of Delta State government. So it should go back to Delta State.
So do you see this ending up in court if government says, well...
And I would love that. I hope the Attorney General of Delta State or his staffs are watching. They should test that in the court, sincerely.
Interesting. That's the Guardian today.
Well, take a look at Vanguard newspaper leads with security, and you see bandits abduct 100 miners, kill 10 in Zamfara. And that's according to emirs. But the riders perhaps shed more light. Deploy more security men to areas affected by herdsmen attacks, banditry, Senate tells NSA. Take fights to Boko Haram enclaves, reps tell military chiefs. Army has achieved commendable success against terrorism, banditry, others. That's Chief of Army Staff. And you see Sokoto bans self-acclaimed security volunteers. So it's quite a lot, Mr. Fatade, when you look at I mean, we just talked about labor, and I was thinking just maybe this will be the lead for Vanguard, but clearly we still have a very present insecurity challenge. But when you hear advice coming from the Senate, you see reps telling military chiefs what to do, is this ideal really? Because you expect that those in charge of security know well enough to know what to do per time rather than always getting advice from different quarters.
Well, I do not think the Senate is out of order in giving advice, but the issue for me is that they just screened those service chiefs how many weeks back, and I'm sure they have told them that. The only other thing is when you ask them to deploy more men, at present, how many soldiers do we have left in Nigeria? I mean, what's our recruitment level? And then we have issues in Northeast, we have in Northwest. We are beginning to have in parts of the southern, I mean some parts of some states in southern part now. So how many soldiers we have in North Central? How many soldiers are you actually going to deploy? We know the resources are stretched thin. But I think the other thing, that lead story that speaks about mining or miner has been abducted in Zamfara, I think that flies in the face of what the governor of Zamfara said about some days back, when he said that he does not know why federal government should ban mining. I hope he can see the nexus now. So because mining is one of those things responsible for banditry in Zamfara State. But it's who we are. But again, we must commend the service chiefs. I was happy seeing them visiting Zamfara how many days back. It shows commitment, it shows trying to be on the ground. So, but then they can't put more boots on the ground. I don't know where the Senate expect them to find those men. We are stretched thin already.
Okay, you see this one right on top of the nameplate. Another angle, I guess. Reps throw out bill as labor protests cripples activities nationwide. That's minimum wage decentralization. Have the reps thrown out
the bill? Maybe that's a new piece of information then.
Or maybe that's a reason to check page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. I see the pictures on the front page showing the protest. But on a final note, I think you referenced this. Yoruba group warns Ogun, Ondo, or your governors against terror attacks on schools. It's on page 10. That's a shocker, isn't it?
Now, what's shocking you there? The warning or that we are under threat of terror attacks?
The fact that, I mean, the trend seems to be moving to the southwest.
But that's logical now. I mean, you could see they've conquered, as it were, northern parts. They are now north central. We've seen what's happening in Nasarawa. We've seen what is happening we've seen what is happening in Niger. So the next logical place is southwest. And I hope you know we got people from Ogun State who are actually now in Benin Republic, having been displaced by herdsmen. So they are at our doorpost already.
Okay. Well, that's sports news right on the back page of the Vanguard this morning. But I'll let you do the choosing.
Don't even know where to begin with what you just said now, Cardi. Daily Trust newspaper is next. And NLC to National Assembly withdraw minimum wage bill or face nationwide strike. And the riders lobby to kill bill, reps say, and Labour says will not. Protests in Abuja and states it's part of restructuring, says Afenifere. Let's dialogue, ACF says. We've spoken largely about this already. But then what do you make of that ambit where the reps are calling on Labour to lobby to kill the bill?
It's the democratic culture. But I'm not sure we are fueling into that. The labor unions, they are people who are labor members before, union members who are in the National Assembly. I'm sure they must have sympathetic senators, sympathetic reps and members from different parts of Nigeria. So you must seek to be heard. That's all. But then again, protest is germane to democracy as well. It's their right to protest. And it's the right of National Assembly members to seek to pass laws or bills for Nigeria. So the two sides are doing what they are supposed to be doing.
Interesting. Well, of course, the pictures on the front page demonstrate the protests in different parts of the country. Well, the black strip you'll see on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper under the pictures on the front page, Shasha market crisis, traders express displeasure over release of suspects. And then the question you want to ask is, what's going on here?
I hope Mr. Frankenberg is listening. He's in the best position to answer that. But we can speak about that. It does not do well to law and order when people have been arrested for crime perpetrated and you release them. Yeah, I mean, that's why we have that blind woman as the picture of true justice. Justice is blind. Justice must be done and be seen to have been done. And then you make people resort to jungle justice when they cannot get justice through the legal means. That's the reason.
Well, that's the Daily Trust today.
All right, take a look at the Nigerian Tribune next. Reps want disbursement of Ibori's £4.2 million loot halted. Members wanted return to Delta State. Funds looted by Deriye Alamiseha were returned to Plateau, Delta. Plateau Bayelsa, Fadana says. IYC tackles FG, says position unacceptable and sanguine. Well, that you also talked about previously. But you equally see just above this lead story here. Bandits killed 937, kidnapped 1,927 in Kaduna in 2020. That's ascribed to a report. Kaduna Central records highest death toll. Security challenges cut across ethno-religious divides, ascribed to government. In terms of our approach, national approach to this, is it that, what do you think is missing? Because time and again, different parts of the country, you just seem to see this kind of story every now and then.
Yeah, we don't seem to have a coordinated approach to all these attacks, whether by so-called bandits or herdsmen or terrorists. And I think coming from the Kaduna State Governor is interesting, because I watched him on your station, I think yesterday, saying no negotiation, no ransom, nothing will be done. But then this was the same governor. Remember that song? I can see clearly now. Maybe he has come to a moment of epiphany. He was the one who told us that he paid people to stop killing. He said it in his first time. So what has happened? But thank God he has seen the light. But I think we need a kind of holistic approach. Each state is doing what they want to do. Zamfara is still continuing negotiating with criminals, with bandits. Katsina started, stopped, and I think it started again. So what exactly are we communicating to people? We are passing mixed messages, and that cannot help in the battle against all these attacks.
And although it's time to put an end to open grazing, that's part of what you see credited to Ondo Macban. Are these discordant tunes? Because this is what some people want to hear. But for you, if Ondo Macban is of this opinion,
I think they are welcome to that. We can't continue doing what was done centuries or ages ago. Things are changing. All right, we have seen what open grazing is causing. And then climate change is actually a factor now. The certification is on the rise. And so we must look at the environmental factors too, inducing this kind of movement. But we have seen, and it has been shown, and it can be done, even under the regional governments of old. We actually have ranches in at least 2 regions, and they were raising animals. So it's doable.
There you go. That's Tribune.
Well, if you take a look at the Nigerian News Direct's front page, this is what you find. EFCC uncovers 70 billion naira oil subsidy fraud, as Bauer testifies against Nadabo Energy in 1.4 billion naira subsidy fraud. So, I mean,
good luck. I wish the prosecution will be successful. What was the prosecution success rate?
Mr. Fatade, I'm not putting my question yet.
No, I'm just saying good luck. So I'm sorry to have preempted you. I'm just saying good luck. I mean, instead of, we have seen enough of internet fraudsters, so-called Yahoo boys. Those are the small fries that the EFCC is going after. But I hope they will succeed in this one. Remember, in the last 2 weeks, about 2 major cases have been thrown out by judges. I mean, the justice is not plucked from a vacuum. You can't give what you don't have, so they say. And so when you don't have diligent prosecution, where do we go? So good enough that the new chair, I wish him all the best, testified. But I hope the prosecution will be done diligently, that the judge in this matter will not be forced to throw away the matter again.
Yeah, so you think that some of these cases being thrown out is as a result of lack of diligent prosecution? Or I mean, isn't
but we
that...
are following, and we can see. And so, are you not, I mean, all the judges cannot be biased against EFCC. When you don't prosecute your case very well, a judge will ask, I mean, you cannot just dash justice out. You must show evidence. And I'm not saying that those crimes might not have been committed allegedly, but it's up to you. I mean, and that's why the English court system that we practice is up to you to show beyond reasonable doubt. You must prove why this guy deserves to be convicted. But when we can't do that, what do we do?
So it's not a case of maybe those people being innocent indeed?
No, it might not be. Not my word, it might not be. We're not sure. But when you are failing prosecuting diligently, who do we blame?
Interesting, because, I mean, for a lot of people, they think...
Are we sure there is no collusion?
Okay, well, a lot of questions you have raised.
Very
there,
many things
Mr.
for us to
Fatade.
dig as journalists. And I hope our colleagues are listening to this too. You don't just pick EFCC press release that we have discovered 70 billion naira. And so what? After that, what happens? And then we are excited by those figures. It does not mean those crimes are not being committed.
Right.
But then what about, are we following the money very well?
Huge one there, Mr. Fatade. But see this one, DPR seals 86 illegal gas plants in Lagos in 2020. That's according to an official. And, you know, just leaning on what you just said, I mean, we've seen filling stations selling petrol. Now, this is away from gas, selling petrol at prices above what is naturally expected. And they've been doing this for weeks now. Is the DPR turning a blind eye? Is that something you've experienced too?
Well, you are not even sure what's the correct price again now. Whether we are full deregulation or we are partial deregulation, nobody is sure of anything. Remember again, there was this story that broke early in the week talking about how much has been spent on subsidy. So if we are being subsidized, why do we still have different prices? That's just asking. And then I hope the queues have disappeared in parts of Nigeria, whereby they resurfaced about 2 weeks ago because there is no petrol. So nobody is sure.
Oh, yeah. Just on final note, banks lost 264.5 billion naira to fraudsters in 45 months. That's according to the NDIC. That looks like a lucrative one, sadly. It's on page 14, but that's Nigerian News Direct this morning.
The Blueprint newspaper has this one, leads about minimum wage. Labour storms NAS, threatens country's lockdown. Because we've spoken largely about this, insists wage must remain on exclusive list. Bill won't see light of the day, according to lawmakers. This interesting line, government won't negotiate with street dancers. PGF boss. Stories on page 6.
Street dancers?
Well, it's on the front page of the book.
No, I just want to know more. People dancing on the streets or what?
Well, it's on page 6.
That's interesting.
The details are right there.
I mean, he's like the devil's advocate. You should tell us more.
Don't shoot the message there, right?
Nobody deliver correct message in communication.
I just read the message.
But I'm giving you the feedback.
That's just a feedback.
So has the message been passed correctly?
I guess he knows the answer. Has it been passed correctly?
Well, government won't negotiate with street dancers. The story is on page 6.
That's interesting.
Very good. Of the Blueprint newspaper. Okay, but there are a number of other,
But you know, our government is negotiating with all manner of people now.
Really?
Which of the government? Federal, state?
That's what we are asking him.
So you won't tell us the street dancers are now interpreting different things.
Blueprint, this is on you, okay?
Please watch the next stories you read carefully.
Okay, well, right under the nameplate is this one again. Bandit attack another Zamfara school, kill 13. Very unpleasant. Stories on page 6 has a rider. We must use force against bandits, says El Rufai. I think you spoke about this earlier. But then there's this interesting one right beside the nameplate. Niger governor blasts aid as, and this is the interesting part, local fishermen identify bandits' route. The story is on page 8. So one of the things that would, naturally come as a question on the minds of many is, we've had people, dialoguing, going to the place where the bandits are. We've had, maybe the appropriate word should be criminals. We've had people identify where they are, and here is another set of local fishermen identifying the route bandits follow, and yet we're yet to pick them up. What do you think is going on here?
I don't know. And you discover that I spent the best part of the last 16, 18 months reading research done by Nigerian and non-Nigerian academics, and you find out that about these security issues. The attacks line, the routes they take, the pathways they follow, the movement from the Sahel group, Mali, Cameroon, Niger, Chad that we share border with. And so the people, the citizens who bear the brunt of these attacks, they actually know the roots of these criminals. But what is happening? And then we have seen people being arrested, we have seen people being released, we have seen different negotiations. And then remember this gentleman, Islamic Eric Gumi, who negotiated with them. Part of what he told us was that the government knows where these guys are. He said that. So, I don't know too. It's something I can't wrap my head around it.
Well, we'll wait and see how governments, even though they've been responding. I think the army was saying something, hey, watch those words. That's from the army. But look at leadership today. 16 states take delivery of 1.8 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine. And then they say Lagos, Kano, Kaduna take lion's share. So in terms of, the receipt and administration of these vaccines and several other policies that government seems to be making, look, you see this going on because, there are those who think, give and take, you may have about 100, 120, of these vaccines, maybe some sort of percentage that may be damaged. So, of course, the exact number may not be administered.
Yeah, it's possible. Because you see the way we got the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and then it can be stored in normal refrigerator temperature. But then in the process of moving there, we also saw the length of time they stayed on the tarmac in different places. So it is possible. But then beyond that, we do not seem to have a coherent plan from our government on how the vaccine will be distributed. Fine, we started with the online registration. I'm sure we know the portal has broken down. In fact, somebody actually got a date last week in Abuja to come and receive the vaccine. And he's not a networker. And I was watching your banter about 2 or 3 days back on whether journalists are frontline workers or we are not. And I think I agree, we are frontline workers, we are not frontline networkers. Because some African countries, I got colleagues in Ghana who are actually taking the vaccine, and in South Africa. So some African countries are treating journalists as priority. So we need to have coherent plan. Nobody is sure. Fine, we've seen the photo ops of governors, their deputy speakers and ministers taking that. And then that in a way is dousing the kind of skepticism that is trailing the administration of the vaccine, because people are skeptical. Literate people like you and I, not just illiterate. And then you begin to ask
You think that will help, that open jab?
I think so. But then do we have a coherent communication plan? Yes. There are jingles playing already on why the vaccines are important. And I foresee a time whereby it becomes another yellow fever card that you want to get outside the shores of Nigeria. Yeah. You will need the COVID-19 vaccination certificate. We need a coherent plan. Thank God we have the vaccines, 3.9 million, not up to 4 that we're expecting. And then we are a nation of whether 150 or 200 million. How far can that go?
Well, we'll see what happens, because they need to take the first and the second jab.
Yeah.
So how many will eventually get this if they are not supposed to fly without being vaccinated? You think that policy will fly?
I think it might get to that because you know we are not existing in isolation. And then you could see what is happening in terms of the quarantine when you get to countries like Canada, UAE. You see the row we're having with Netherlands and UAE now. I think so. I don't know, but it's just me. It's a kind of what do we call that? The management now, scenario planning. That's all.
So like the wait and see approach might eventually play out as well. Who knows?
It's possible.
All right, then we do thank you for coming on. Wale Fatade, Commissioning Editor of The Conversation Africa.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, back in a moment. Stay with us.
The Unity Fountain in Abuja is the venue for the takeoff of the protest, and members of the organized labor converge one after the other as early as 7 in the morning. The president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Ayuba Waba, arrives in company of other labor leaders and immediately addresses the crowd.
Let us ask him, how much is his salary per month? That Betty. How much is he earning? We are told, and nobody have controverted this fact, they are collecting 13 million per month. How can he, in his right senses, now say that 30,000, the current minimum wage, is too much for Nigerian workers? Can we say shame to him? Shame! Certainly Nigerian workers are not happy. He must withdraw that bill with immediate effect.
From there, the protesters marched through the street of Abuja, carrying placards with different inscriptions that express their concerns. They arrived at the gate of the National Assembly and forcefully pushed their way through the gate, defying all attempts by security personnel to stop them. The Deputy Chief Whip of the Senate meets the protesters halfway and tried to engage them, but they will not yield, insisting they must get to the assembly complex. In front of the complex, the NLC and TUC presidents reiterate their concerns as they present the letter of their protest to representatives of both the Senate and the House of Representatives, who assure them that their grievances will be addressed.
We will stand by you to ensure that the fundamental right of every worker is not only enforced, but is ensured and guaranteed. The only justice that bill is to kill the bill.
With those words of assurance, the protesters disperse one after the other, but the NLC says it's not going to sleep unless the matter is laid to rest. The big question that is on the mind of many Nigerians is how soon would we begin to see the implementation of the national minimum wage, especially in many of the states where payment of the minimum wage is still a big issue. From the National Assembly, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Okay, welcome back. Well, as you've seen there, that's what we're discussing now. This labor controversy over the minimum wage, and you've seen the protests yesterday. Well, those gentlemen join us from our studios in Abuja. Honorable Gabar Date Mohammed, member of the APC representing Sabongeri Federal Constituency in Kaduna State and a member of the APC, as well as Comrade Amechi Asuguni, Deputy President of NLC. Gentlemen, good morning and thank you for joining us today on the program.
Good morning.
All right. Honourable, let's start with you. You heard the backlash concerning this bill, which you sponsored on the floor of the House. What was, having seen and heard how Labour responding to this nationwide, what do you think now?
Well, I think the issue has even gone beyond me. It's an issue of the National Assembly, because this bill was has passed the second reading in the House of Representatives. If you could recall, the day I presented the bill, there was a robust debate from both who are against and those who are in support of the bill. You could see that more than 85% of the people who contributed were for the bill. It's just less than 15% of those who contributed that are against the bill, and it was voted for. So it has gone beyond me now. The National Assembly has a process that you can attend to this bill. If Labour has problem with the bill, they should wait for public hearing. They will be invited and other stakeholders. So I think all of us, both the Labour and the National Assembly, we are working on the same page to see how we can solve this teething problem that has been with us for quite a long time. We cannot pretend that there is no problem on the issue of minimum wage. While the federal government is paying, most of the state governments cannot pay and are not paying, and there is no consequences and no penalty for not paying. And instead of going through the back door to renegotiate after agreeing, why not we just amend it, remove it from the exclusive legislative list and return it to the concurrent list? I think the most civilized way to approach this is for dialogue, for constructive engagement, not based on threat, intimidation, name-calling, smear campaign. I think it will not help us as a nation. All of us are looking for ways to solve these issues that has been with us for quite a long time.
In other words, notwithstanding the protest, you've got no regrets about the bill till date.
Yeah, the most important thing that we have triggered a national discourse. If you can see, if you have been reading newspaper and other online, there are people that have come out strongly, some even leading newspaper with strong editorial to support our position. Even some leading legal luminaries, apart from coming out openly, some have called me personally to show their solidarity. So this is an issue where you have people who are in support and people who are against. So when we will be having the public hearing, both sides will come and present their own case. And I don't think if the Labour comes with a superior argument, nothing prevents the House from throwing away the bill. But as it is now, they have the chance, and any other person who is a stakeholder in this issue has the chance to come and make his own presentation during the public hearing.
Comrade Asoguni, it appears protest may not cut this, perhaps from what he's saying.
I think, good morning once again. The issue of removing minimum wage from exclusive list is not a recent struggle. It is not just this Night Assembly. There were other attempts in the past, and it never scaled through because at first, if you are not well and properly educated on why labor issues must be prioritized to remain a national law, you may be missing it. You know, we have said it time and over that issue of wage is a prioritized scheme in such a way that we are looking at governors. Somebody has to look at the private sectors. Somebody has to look at the informal sectors. Where you miss to retain a national law that will make a minimum wage compulsory for every employer, in that case, there will be anarchy because As a matter of fact, you will automatically be removing the right of workers to collective bargaining. And when you say states should pay as they want, or capacity to ability to pay, the question is, no one has said states should not pay higher. No one has said, we are only saying the minimum wage is a benchmark and states are obliged to pay higher. So for me and for labor, this struggle is not a test. This struggle is not a matter of trying effort. It's something that labor will leave no stone unturned. And they know yesterday was just a visit to National Assembly. Anything otherwise will affect the nation strongly, because labor is resolute. We are not even going back to organ to seek mandate. An automatic mandate has been given to engage in national strike, starting from National Assembly if they fail to do the needful. And you know, we have also gotten a robust response from a majority of the House as we speak. Probably our brother Honorable may be talking from the point of the day the motion was moved, but as at today, we have a very long list of members who have vowed to see to it that this thing does not shave Nigerians' workers' head on their behalf.
So
and as a matter of fact, it is something that it will be against the people. When you talk about Nigerian workers, the people are looking at it as if it's a segment of people. Nigerian workers are the Nigerian. They are the people that are working to see to it. It doesn't matter the program of government. Without the workers, you cannot excel. So we're talking about the right of workers to earn wage.
Yeah, comrade. So does it mean that labor will not be going to the public hearing? Do you want the bill dropped outright?
No. Whatever engagement that is required to enable the bill thrown out will be followed. Labor will be abiding by rules. But I'm telling you that those engagements is to allow the processes that will knock it out, because we are not just, it's not a contest of power here. It's a matter of we must not do what is wrong. Every nation strives to retain laws that will bring sanity, laws that will bring decent work. If you do anything otherwise, then we are going back. Don't forget, this is a practice that has been in place for over 40 years. So any governor or governors that have been listed that are sponsoring this move, whatever they think they are using as an incentive, they should consider it loss, because such incentive can never stand the test of time, because labor will do everything possible to expose the procedures. For me and for labor, we are not going to let it be, because we are talking about human rights. We're talking about activities that will retain confidence of workers. We're talking about earning productivities. When you talk about removing wage from exclusive leads, it becomes a threat to even the unemployed. It becomes a threat to the entire sectors. Because assuming they are saying that 30,000 is now a big money to be considered minimum, then Nigerians will ask why. And from your own end, how much do you think that can take a family through a month? Because the question of how much do they earn, each time we ask that question, it looks as if you want to expose people's wage. But we're talking about whoever you are in this country. Economy is for everybody, and the schools are meant for everybody. Market are meant for everybody. And when inflation comes, it does not choose the minimum wage categories to actually create the hazard. For us, a national minimum wage is a plus, is part of democratic achievement that this nation has secured, and we cannot do anything that will jeopardize already achieved instrument that will better the welfare of Nigerians. Anything contrary, and I was thinking by now, our brother, the information we had yesterday was that they were already looking at the point labor is raising to actually supersede the earlier reasons given. But if by now they are still insisting, or our friend here is still saying he has supporters in the House, then we are going to draw a line.
Just quickly, when you say you have a majority of lawmakers behind you who are supporting your own side, just how many do you have?
No, when I say majority, you should expect that we are talking about over 50%. So I'm not counting names here because it's a matter of interest. It's a matter of we're talking about the integrity of Nigeria. It shouldn't be heard. We're talking about global standard here. You know, when people localize, the inability of some governors to pay wage has nothing to do with doing what is lawful. We're talking about obligation.
Now. Just a moment. Let's take this back to Honorable Mohammed.
And there's no...
We'll get to that because I know that's a major part of this conversation. But just to bounce off some of the issues you raised Honorable. Now, Honorable, in the process of coming up with this bill, did you have any input, any recommendation, contribution from any governor?
No. As a lawmaker, I'm at liberty to make research on any other issue, particularly the issues that affect the country from my own perspective, from what I understand from the research I made. And apart from that, you could remember there was agitation all over the country that this present government should adopt the confirmed report of Jonathan's administration. And the government said, no, we will now have our own committee on restructuring and devolution of power, which was constituted by the APC government with some governors, with some members of National Assembly, with representation from the party, and they came out with strong resolutions on these issues. And it was brought before the NEC of the party, which I happen to be a member of that NEC, and it was ratified by the NEC. So as a member of NEC, as member of National Assembly, I have the right to bring it to the for national discourse and to bring it in form of bill, and that's exactly what we did.
When you hear allegations, for example, take the Ekiti State TUC chairman saying that this infamous bill is part of plots to exterminate Nigerian workers by APC governors. So the belief out there is that there are governors behind this bill. So when you hear such, what's your response?
Well, the NLC, in their own tradition, it has always been part of the way they treat issues. I don't know. I'm happy that my comrade is here. We are involving ourselves we are engaging in constructive engagement. But traditionally, what they do, I've seen it in the social media, a lot of abuses, a lot of intimidation, a lot of insult coming to me for just doing what I'm supposed to do as a lawmaker. So such allegations are unfounded, and as they have no basis. I know they will make more of that, but that will not change anything. And the labor as an institution and a law-abiding institution, we have in the National Assembly, we have our own processes and procedures. And there is no way the National Assembly can jettison its own processes. The labor has to subject itself to come for public hearing, and other stakeholders that have interest, whether you are for or against. It has gone beyond me. It's not my issue. I'm not the one to withdraw it. When you come and you bring convincing reasons, and people that were there have seen it, then, and as I'm telling you now, while I'm on my way here, I've received also call from some civil society organizations who are in support of the bill that are coming to see me. So it's a national discourse. We have brought this into national attention now. It doesn't matter. My comrade is here. All of us, our approaches may be different, but the most important thing, we are looking for ways on which to develop our country and move forward. And these are some of the things you may agree and disagree from time to time. But at the end of the day, when we sit with them, we look at the areas of interest and how are we going to move forward. We cannot pretend that some of these states and local governments cannot pay this amount, and they are not paying. And laws, as we said, laws are made to be implemented, not just for the sake of making laws, then you make laws that are not implementable, and there is no penalty, there is no consequences for it, then what's the essence of making such laws? That's just the position of this.
Right.
But,
so, Honorable, just a moment.
The NLC president himself has written a letter to me, which I responded, and I told him, we are not against them, we are not against labor, we are not against workers, but we want something that is practicable, something that is implementable, and we have seen in the past when it was raised to 18,000, the price of oil at that time was around $150 per barrel. Even when this minimum was raised to 30, there was bailout that is being given to some states. Then later the bailout is not there. The reality on ground is that most of the states cannot pay. And the NLC, I know the area of concern of the NLC. The NLC as a labor, the door is not shut for them to go and negotiate with each of these states based on the resources available to the state. And they have their own conventions, the law of International Labour Organization, which they use it as the base. If I can comment now,
there are quite a number of issues to raise.
That's just
right, no problem. There are quite a number of issues to raise. So, Comrade Asoguni, I haven't heard Honorable Mohammed saying that, well, there is no governor behind this bill. Does that maybe persuade you and to think maybe, okay, maybe this is in good stead?
I think, you know, this very matter, if I were him, I would be very smart to know where to quit in a struggle that will eventually terminate agendas of politics. Because the question is, whose interests are you protecting? When you say governors are not behind you, then whose interests are you protecting? The interests of the masses. Everyone in the National Assembly has a constituency, and the constituency are the composition of workers. There is no way you will come to national television to advocate that 30,000 is not payable. 30,000 is so big for a governor to pay a worker in Nigeria 1,000 naira per day, and the sitting honorable member in the National Assembly with 10 Nigerians that is very convinced that there are some governors that cannot meet up with 30,000 wage. That should let you know that Labour must not delay in ensuring that this matter is not just thrown out, but leaving a symbolic action that will make the National Assembly never to come back to think about something that is injurious to Nigerian system. How can we now then say, if you are already quarreling with 30,000 as a wage, it suggests to you that the fear and concern of labor is genuine. Now, if governors hear that 30,000 is not payable, rather than advocating to make a law that is punishable, should any governor refuse to implement a national minimum wage law, you should be advocating a law against offenders who refuse to pay. Because no state, there is no state in Nigeria that cannot afford 30,000 as a wage. None of their personal assistants, none of their staff, none of their cooks receive 30,000. So there is no way you consider people to be ordinary and then you become unique when it concerns wage. It's unacceptable, and Labour, as a matter of fact, should engage deeply in this matter, starting from the constituency where this matter is actually coming from. Because it's not a threat, it's a life issue that Nigerians are seeing it, and the letter we saw from him suggests to me that there is an alternative to have a rethink in the matter. But from what I'm hearing now, I think I should report back to the House that the struggle we say in this matter must continue. Like I said, it's not a threat. We never threatened. Our engagement has always been defend Nigerian workers when the need arises. And there is no other need than the need to defend their welfare. In fact,
comrade, just one moment, comrade. Let's make this a little more robust. Yes, let's make this a little more robust. Over and over again, Labour has said that we don't want to go back to a battle that we won 40 years ago. 40 years ago, exactly 40 years ago, will be 1981. And at that time, it was a civilian government in power. So I'm wondering, was it during that civilian government that Labour won this moving legislation of minimum wage from the concurrent list to the exclusive list, or was it during the government of the military that came afterwards?
Thank God, you just answered it, and that was exactly the time Labour engagement started fully in Nigeria.
Which one of it? Was it during the military government or the civilian government of the day? Okay. Now, another question a number of people would want to pose to you would be, how come Labour on one hand is saying, let's go full throttle federalism, yet we want this issue of minimum wage centralized? If we centralize this one, we can as well centralize some other issues. How do you respond to them?
Yeah, of course, you've answered it, because the question is, in centralizing issues, we talk about priorities, issues that requires national interest. Issues that are of national interest must be retained in the exclusive list. You cannot talk about wage. And let me also tell you openly today again, we have been saying it. If it was necessary to have state assemblies all over Nigeria to earn the same salary, it was necessary to have councillors all over Nigeria to earn the same salaries, governors receive the same salaries in this country, there is no issue of ability to pay. Then when it comes to Nigerian workers who ordinarily have no voice other than the law that has been made 30,000 compulsory, if you remove this, then how fair are you to Nigerian workers?
All right, comrades, we need to wind down now.
A minimum wage matter must be central, and should remain in that exclusive list.
Honorable Muhammad, let's quickly get your concluding thoughts, because part of what the argument there is, governors earn the same thing. How come they are able to afford that, which is, they say, is huge that they earn? And by the way, when they were all campaigning, they said they could do this job and pay this minimum wage, quite a number of them. So if they can't, why don't they just throw in the towel?
Yes, I'm happy you are coming from that angle. We are in a democracy. This can be a campaign issue, and any governor that make promise to the Labour should pin him down during the campaign and let him make a commitment, so that not after, then when you bring the issue, they will tell you that they don't have money to pay and there is nothing you can do about it. So this is exactly what we are saying, and the contradiction that, as you rightly brought out, you cannot be advocating for true federalism in one hand, then in another hand saying, no, let's go back to centralized system of government. We are devolving power to constituent states, and the reality is there on ground. My friend, my comrade, he knows about it.
Honorable, sorry to jump in, but just before we go,
about the issue,
could you tell us, Honorable, whose interest are you protecting then, if you say governors are not behind you?
We are protecting the interests of the system, because the system is not working. We cannot pretend that there is no problem, that some state are not paying
complains to you?
Wage. At the end of the day, it's the same Labour that after negotiating and agreeing at the national level, they will go back to the states through the back door, that as it's happened in Kano. They went there to renegotiate. They are going to other states in Nasarawa and other places. What we are saying, this thing can be resolved. The Labour can go and negotiate on behalf of workers in each state, depending on the resources and the economy of that state. That's just what we are saying. We are not saying that the Labour should be decentralized. The Labour should be there, but they should be fighting for the workers based on the resources of that state. Because those who are not paying now, there is no consequences, no penalty, and there is nothing Labour can do about it. That's just what we are saying. And when Labour is negotiating, Labour has the International Labour Organization.
We need to run on this one. I understand, besides, Comrade equally needs to dash out. But Comrade, if you could just do this in 10 seconds, if possible. Did Kano Labour go back to the government to renegotiate, as he just said?
Nothing like that. Can you reverse the law? When a national minimum wage has been enacted as 30,000, can any governor reverse it? Can any NSC reverse it? Not in discussions at state level and modalities to enable them pay the wage. Modalities on how to secure their arrears. modalities on how to get this wage paid without delay. Those are the engagements state at their level enters with their governor.
All right,
can't
gentlemen.
discuss law. And that is why we should be looking at the penalty and not to subvert the system.
All right, we need to go. We thank you both, Honorable Gaba Dati Muhammad, member, APC, representing Sabongeri Federal Constituency, the mover of the motion, as well as Comrade Amechi Asuguni, Deputy President of Nigeria Labour Congress. Thank you both for coming on this morning. We're back in a moment. Join us again. All right, welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, we will be speaking with His Excellency there. So many things playing out in the polity, and he will be weighing in on quite a number of them. So he'll be joining us sooner rather than later. But yes, indeed, I mean, looking through the dailies, you just get to see, wow, different challenges and circumstances. But yes, we are now joined by His Excellency Dave Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program, Your Excellency. Well, it turns out, yeah, looking through the dailies and the policies, so much just going on now. I mean, we're just seeing the protest by Labour yesterday. They're still up in arms today. What's your impression of how things are turning out in the nation at the moment?
Well, I look at issues as part of issues in Nigeria, as part of the global challenges, you know, that are currently in place now. Nigeria is not an exception. But I would be saying that in our country we are passing through a phase, and this situation requires that we look deeply in ourselves and ask us some basic questions. What do we want? I think that there is very low level of patriotism, you know, in our country. I think so, and this is the major issue.
Your Excellency, given this phase that you talked about, I just wondered, could we have avoided coming this far, going this route, given, you know, things that we could have done better that we hadn't done before? Could we have avoided this phase that you're talking about, that we're talking about, that we are in as a nation right now? This insecurity, the ridiculous numbers of poverty, inequality, and all those things. Could we have avoided it? What could we have done?
That's exactly what I've told you. That is, you know, the basic problem of Nigeria is lack of patriotism. You see, I was sometime in China, and I saw 100-story buildings, you know, so many of them not being occupied. And I asked a question, what are these buildings for? They said, you know, they are building for the next, their generation in the next 30 years. I remember that there was a time we had so much oil surplus. And all we could do as a nation is to do what they call, is it a festival, you know, that's where Festa came up, you know. And so we did not honestly, you know, from the one, you know, peer into the future. We didn't look at the future. We didn't prepare the future for our children. And that's what we are suffering now. If anybody believes that the current suffering is just because of the current leadership, you know, that is a huge joke. That's a huge joke. There was no preparation from the one.
But, so, given where we are now, Your Excellency, aren't we also setting the same pace for the future if we do not reverse our steps now?
I don't believe so, because you see, if you get into a house and your house is leaking and you see a snake, you have to first of all kill the snake, and then you begin to fix the leaking roof. You can't place something on nothing. So the level of decay and corruption, that the current administration faced, of course, both are the central government and the subnational government, quite enormous. And so we are trying as government to see how we can kill the snake first, and that is, corruption, lack of patriotism on the side of leaders, and of course, lack of patriotism on the side of the led. And these are the issues. So I believe strongly that what the current government is doing, both federal government and state government, is trying to fix, the situation and then begin to prepare for the future.
People interpret things differently. In fact, some think that this patriotism you've spoken about, they see it in the realm of this debate about payment of minimum wage to the workers or not. I mean, many of them did reference the governors not long ago. So if you could give us, maybe a backstory, an idea of the thinking. What is your impression? Are governors, or for you, for instance, opposed to this payment of the current minimum wage?
I hope I'm talking to Chamberlain. The truth remains, Chamberlain, is that what we mostly pay in Nigeria, I will call it, the salary, I can call it social security. Because if you have 1,000 workers and, you get your FAC allocation and you pay the workers, and there is nothing left for the workers to work with, then what are you doing? You're only paying social security, and that is what is happening. In the first place, I think that the number of workers we have in the country, civil servants, that are so large, because there is no funds for them to work. You brought, a medicine man to come and lay your blocks, and you say, this is how much I'm going to pay you, and you're ready to pay him. You take out the money and keep, and then you have no blocks for the man to lay for you. You have no cement. Then what are you doing? You are paying him social security, and that is what is happening. So I think that there should be a different engagement of civil servants, in the sense that the total number we have should not be there. But what do? You have to now put up another kind of program for them, so that those who should actually be civil servants, are limited, and then you pay these people very well. We are wasting a lot of, manpower in this country. The output is very little, because the engagement is not correct. So I think that even the minimum wage is honestly too minimum. How much can 30,000 do for a civil servant? And that is the truth. But the truth is that the civil servant should understand that by getting that minimum wage, that his lifespan is being wasted, because he gets to the office, he has nothing to do. And so when you have nothing to do, the devil comes in, and bitterness, anger, and unpatriotic, thoughts will also come in.
Excellency, is it just about the workers being large? Because that could suggest that you subscribe or may subscribe to a reduction in the workforce in that regard, or the capacity of the governors to generate the funds with which to pay and then ensure that the state is viable. Because while they were contested, I mean, they all will say that, yes, we're here to provide solutions.
You see, I'm not suggesting reduction in workforce. If you are going to reduce workforce, for example, you can say, okay, any civil servant that is willing, to step aside and engage in other ventures like agriculture, for example, the government is willing to pay the person like 30 months salary. if 30 years salary. For example, Chamberlain, if you are earning 30,000, in a year you are earning 360,000. In 10 years you are earning 3.6 million, and in 30 years you are earning about 11 million. And so government can raise bonds and engage these people. So they will be engaged in productive, ventures, and they will make more money, much more money, and live better lives. But with the current minimum wage, is difficult. And how do you want governors to generate, funds? Generation of funds is a function of what comes in, because with the activities, if you just receive your FAC allocation and you have nothing to invest in infrastructure, to invest in, health, in education, how do you generate the money? So it's very difficult. Some governors mainly get this money, and people do not know that after paying salaries and probably security, that they have nothing to work with. And it's important for the governors to cry out so that the world will know.
So is this bill, in some sense, governors crying out? Do you think that this will be a solution, at least, to the problem of not being able to generate enough funds and productivity? This bill that allows states to actually negotiate the minimum wage they want to pay.
I am in support that workers should be paid minimum wage, but the truth is that the minimum wage is not the answer to the problems of workers. Ask the states that are receiving minimum wage or even maximum wage whether they are comfortable. They are not comfortable. So we are suggesting that labor should engage for a different kind of program for the civil servants, so that truly those who should be working in terms of civil service, will be a number that is commensurate to what is coming to the state. And the rest could be engaged in other, meaningful ventures that will better their lives. That is the truth. So we are not saying the workers, governors crying out for this. But the point is, you must know what your baggage is, what you baggage out. If you have no money to, generate funds, the public should know.
So let me just bring this home now. For your state, is 30,000 naira too minimum? Are you saying you can do better if, for example, that bill goes through? Are you saying if you were to negotiate, you will push for something better or something less?
The question is not in line with our discussion, because I'm telling you that I'm paying minimum wage for sure. I'm managing to pay, but I'm telling you that the problem is not the minimum wage. The problem is how much funds do you get? For example, when people talk about autonomy of legislature, autonomy of judiciary, and this and that, it sounds so ridiculous, because every budget is a mere estimate. And you cannot say because you are this sector, if you put 100 billion in a budget, that you must get 100 billion. No, the performances of governors are functions of what they receive and what they're able to generate based on what activities they can do in their states.
So if governors don't receive enough, why can't they, or will they then ask that the revenue sharing formula changes?
Changes to what? If you add 2 plus 2, it gives you 4. If you add 1 plus 3, it gives you 4. So it's the same government, it's the same Nigeria. You have to ask yourself, if the revenue changes, for example, I'll be very happy as a state, but is the federal government, better off? The answer is no. The same thing we are facing at the state level is the same thing the federal government is facing. So even the 52% of the revenue they take is not enough for them to pay salary. That's still borrowing money to sustain their recurrent expenditures.
So, Governor, it comes off as though you're saying that we have present challenges of generating funds, getting enough, so much that when we pay this 30,000 eventually, we don't have enough for other things. So, which is why I asked earlier that if this bill eventually passes, if it passes, would you be supporting it and saying that let's pay more or let's pay less? Because clearly it's a challenge, and Labour is listening. They'd like to at least glean what the position is from different governors.
No, what we should do, as a nation, as a people, is to bring the cards, all cards on the table, facing up, and then we should be able to discuss. There's no right-thinking person that will say that any worker in this country should be paid less than 30,000. It's not. It doesn't sound well at all. So I support minimum wage, whether it's by legislation or it's by negotiation, but that is not the issue. We need, as a people, to sit down and discuss our problems. Labour cannot tell me, yes, I've seen that you are not able to pay this minimum wage, but you are the governor, go find the money. That is not good. And you cannot tell the Labour, say, look, I cannot pay. You have to show Labour the evidence that you cannot pay. And so you have to sit down with Labour, because, you see, Labour is not an anti-government. They are part of the success of government and, of course, the failure of government. So it's important that Labour should be able to negotiate with governors and say, look, this amount that you are bringing, we don't want you to put it into education. We want you to put it into stomach infrastructure. So it should be public, and then everybody should be able to know this is what is coming in, this is what is possible, and this is what is not possible.
One of the arguments of Labour, Your Excellency, is that we are talking about the minimum wage for civil servants, but we are avoiding talking about the fact that the same way the legislation of minimum wage for civil servants goes is the exact same way the legislation for salaries of all governors and all members of houses of assembly goes. So they're wondering, is it possible for us to also consider, look, if we're going to negotiate the minimum wage for states at the various levels, we should also negotiate the salaries of governors at the various levels. What's your reaction to that?
Do you know how much a governor earns by the RAMFAC notation? Do you have an idea?
No, you tell us, sir.
I earn less than 600,000 a month as a governor. And we're only 36. So it brings me to the point I've been stressing. If I have 50,000 workers and I'm receiving X amount, that is not likely to increase. And compared to a state that has maybe 10,000 workers, you're receiving maybe the same amount, And so you have to ask yourself, who has the ability to pay better? Is the man with less number of workers based on the same amount of money being received? Let's say ceteris paribus, that all things being equal. So that is the position. The number engaged, don't forget that people, engage these civil servants. I say engage them to suffer them. People will say create jobs. And then you bring a lot of people who should be in their productive, age, doing something else. If you get to China, everybody's busy, everybody's working. You get to China, you hardly find, elderly people on the street. You just find, school children on the street, because everybody is working. We must develop this attitude of everybody working. Like in my state, I had to give civil servants, soft agric loan, because their time is being spent doing nothing, and doing nothing not because of their own fault, but because there is nothing that is left after paying salary for them to do something. And I tell you that in the States, some of the things, infrastructure you see and developments, is because of what Mr. President did for us, especially at the exception of the 2015 administration. The infrastructure fund, refund of Paris Club, bailout funds, SS crude, loans. These are the things that governors use to develop some infrastructures in their state. And you must know that there is no amount of development that can happen in this country or in any state without infrastructure, especially the roads. You need to move from one point to the other. So I think this labor thing, I'm in sympathy with them, honestly. When they cry out people not paying minimum wage, honestly, it's very disturbing, because the answer is, even that minimum wage, 30,000, what can 30,000 do for an average worker? You know, go and find out how much rice is costing, how much tomato is costing. But is it the fault of governors or Mr. President? The answer is no. It's the economic situation, and it needs different kind of engagement. You know, it needs different kind of engagement. When you bring labor and they are willing to listen, and I want to thank God that the president and LC is a bit different from the past leaders of labor, because he's willing to listen. So let us honestly act of patriotism, listen, and let us put all cards up. There might be things that governors are doing that they should not do. It's not their money, it's public funds. And so we engage and agree. Not only labor, the public also will be brought in. Because the money is not just for civil servants, it's for the entire state by reason of the population.
You know, part of what, I mean, we can't do anything or a lot without security. And when you say that what governors do with some money is not their money, do they treat security votes as well as their money?
The security votes?
Yes.
Everybody kick on this security vote without knowing what is in this security vote, you know. But I always tell people that it goes with the job. You know, the job is quite very easy when you're not the one doing it. Go to any governor and ask. You get my director SSS called me last night after the rain, and he said to me, I have bad news for you. I said, what is it? He said, my roof is blown. You know, I have no office to work. What do I do? Early this morning, I have to go there to go and find out what we can do about it. So when you talk about security votes, of course, security votes are also open. They're in the budgets. You can ask a governor, what do you do with security votes, for example? But it's not everything about security votes that a governor can openly tell you, because he has to do everything. Chamberlain, you don't have to tell me everything you do in your family to maintain stability. There are things you cannot explain. There are things you cannot say. It's the same thing with security votes.
Can we ask how much governors get for security votes?
Then it's no longer secured. If I tell you how much I get for security vote, but you can go to our website and you can see our budget estimates.
Okay, Excellency, since you put it under security, but some of the issues that equally bother on security, nationally, we're seeing what is playing out. Of course, people are rightly concerned about that. The president has said that much. Different governors are approaching it different ways. But for the Southeast, there's been this talk about, I mean, the Southeast Security Committee, they say it's taking too long, far too long, for the governors to take a decision on what they want to do with their own security. So tell us, you head that committee, what is going on with the security outfits in the Southeast?
Well, I can tell you that the issue of security in Southeast is a mixture of, insecurity and politics. You know, what is obtainable here is far from what is being circulated. Sometimes people play politics to the extreme. You see, when people shout regional security outfit, there is nothing like that, and I can tell you that, and I can bet you that there is nothing like that anywhere in the country. What we have is, a kind of adversary, a kind of, the Southeast coming together to say, okay, we have a committee. This committee, we advise our various, security outfits in our various states. There is nothing like, Ebonyi contributing personnel, Imo contributing Enugu, and they come together and they stay at the seat of power at Enugu, and they say, okay, if there is a problem here, no, that is not obtainable. That is not in line with the Constitution we swore to uphold. What is obtainable is that in all these Southeast states, we all have our security outfits. You know, we have neighborhood watch, we have the forest guards, we have the, Buchapu, So, and they are all working very, very well. We now have one common joint security committee that is not more than maybe 7-8 persons. And they are the people that are training these security people in our various states. They are the people that are advising them. They are the people that are telling them that they must act within the limit of the Constitution. And that's what we have. And that's what the Constitution permits. If anybody tells you that they could be personnel contributed from all the states and they come together and say that they are, security for this region, it is not a possibility. It's not even workable, even if the Constitution permits it. Because every state is peculiar and every state has its own challenges.
All right, we'll come back to this in just a moment when we return after the break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Your Excellency, so tell us, for those who are looking to the region to see what and how they will approach this, what should they expect from the Southeast governors?
Come back.
What should people expect from the Southeast governors concerning security, having a common approach?
The point is that those who are complaining and talking about lack of joint security for Southeast are not those who are living in Southeast. Most of them are outside the country and are shouting that darkening council without knowledge. They have no idea what is going on. But call any person living in any of the states. Yes, there are some, insecurity problems here and there is expected because we are not insulated from what is happening all over the country. But the truth remains that Southeast remains the most secured region in the entire country. So the approach, the governors are very satisfied with that. The governors, in Southeast are also happy with what you're doing. We are not God. We can. The Bible says, unless the God, guards a city, in vain are the watchmen. So we are not God to say that we have 100% assurance in terms of security. But we are doing our best, and this is what our people want, and that is what they are getting.
So, in other words, there will be no new security outfit from states in the Southeast or any such. The current provision and the current arrangement, you say that is good enough?
I don't know what you were expecting before now. Is there any constitutional provision to have a common security outfit?
No, not common. We have states, individual states now.
No, we do have. We do have. And it's just like you have, chief of defense staff is coordinator of the various chiefs, That's exactly what we have in Southeast. We have security, joint security committee that is, overseeing the activities of the various security outfits in the 5 states of Southeast. And this arrangement is very key for us. You can't even imagine that we get all our security personnel and put them, for example, in Enugu state, and there is a problem in Ebonyi state that is about 200-300 kilometers away, and then you now start mobilizing to start going to the place. Or people expect that we contribute personnel and they all come to Enugu and we say we are deploying somebody from Abia state to go to Ebonyi state. Then why are we talking about community state police? It's the same kind of arrangement that you use a thief to catch a thief, which means that the people from that area know the terrain very well. They know the people very well. And then they are given the opportunity, to take care of the people security-wise. And that is the arrangement we have in Southeast.
Well, I know that that engagement did happen between the IGP and the region about community policing. What is the current situation about that now?
Well, I don't see much difference between community policing and our vigilante. The only thing is that we will not allow the police to take control of the community policing. The community policing must be in the hands of the natives. But the advantage of community policing, it has the impetus of the law, which means that by the reason of community policing, they have the legal backing to arrest, and then detain. I'm not too sure of this, and try. So that is the advantage for me of community policing, that it has the federal, act, in a way of law to back up the activities. But in our various vigilante, we have the state law, which is also very good to do this. But in doing our law, no section of it is going to run contrary to the federal constitution. This is important. So the federal constitution, by reason of the community policing or the act, is going to be superior to our own laws, and that will give an added advantage to the personnel.
So when you say the police will not take over, what role can they play? Can they be members of this committee or vigilante groups? How will they come in?
Well, the IGP is a very intelligent man. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you, sir. We can hear you. Okay, we're just trying to sort that out. Talking about community policing. Remember, well, it was a huge concern at the time. But yes, they had that meeting. But I remember when the state governor did equally say there were concerns as to how it was going to work. So perhaps when he does talk about that, we'll get to hear what is his thinking about, further thinking about how this will operate if the police will not take over, as it were.
Added to that is the fact that you remember, sometime back, about 3 months or thereabout ago, the governors came together to say, look, give us state police so that we can be able to address these things ourselves. I wonder if His Excellency can hear us now. Can you hear us, Your Excellency? Okay, well, so, they established the fact that for them, state police is something that will help them,
But are they all on the same page about that subject matter? Because I do remember the last time out. Okay, let's get back to His Excellency. I understand he's back. Go ahead, sir. You were talking about the structure, the format. If at all the police will play any role, what would it be?
Well, they are, but like I said, the IGP is intelligent but diplomatic. The template he brought to us at Enugu, we rejected it because it didn't give total control to the natives. And so it's being restructured in the sense that the traditional rulers of each of the communities is in charge, and at the local government level is the local government, chairman, that is the chairman of the community policing. And this is very good for us because the chairman at the local level, which is the traditional ruler, knows the people and he knows the terrain. And this structure, I think, is very good, and it will help.
Well, still talking security, one of the other solutions that was put forward is the NLTP. I mean, trying to solve the issues between farmers and herders, which we have seen time and again causing issues. You are the chairman of the technical committee, that's next technical committee on NLTP. And I recall you, reeling out the modus operandi, how the federal government will play, what the state will do. But so far, it seems that some states are still dragging their feet when it comes to NLTP. So at this point, really, what is the challenge with NLTP, especially states buying in?
Well, the NLTP required that states should pay 20% of the consideration, while federal government will do 80%. But as we talk now, I think Plateau, Nasarawa, Gombe, and Adamawa, they already have concluded the arrangement, waiting for federal government engagement. State like Kaduna has, gone ahead of federal government to establish their own. Kano, Jigawa, and some other states, I can't remember. So the states are doing everything possible. But remember, everything the state is called. And the question remains, where will the state get this 20% of engagement? So it's quite a very tough one because everything is urgent in the states. Everything is urgent. But I think the states are doing quite a lot in this regard.
state participating in that? Because you seem to be quite hopeful about that, the plan. I mean, just like you said that there are different thematic areas, so this is not just for herdsmen. It's going to have an economic ramification as well. So seeing that it seems to have, good intentions and would, of course, add to the revenue of states, would your states be participating?
My own state?
Yes.
You have to understand the definition of an LTP. It is a program for all kinds of livestock. And what works in River State may not work in Delta State, may not work in Southeast. So it's for states to engage in line with their peculiarities. And this is very important. Where you talk about ranching, for example, that's where you have vast land available, which is definitely not available in Southeast. So the Southeast states governors are not participating in terms of having one large land that is dedicated for ranching. No, they are not doing ranching, but they are also engaged in a different kind of program in support of this NLTP beautiful program.
Well, given that, as you well know, part of the 5-point agenda, so to speak, of the NLTP is to tackle insecurity and provide economic empowerment, among others. I'm wondering if there is any way that this idea, this National Livestock Transformation Plan, can be domesticated, in the Southeast, just as you have said. Well, you have just mentioned that, Southeast is not participating, but I'm wondering, if it is such a beautiful program, how come?
No. When I said, we are not participating, it's in terms of, ranching. There are other aspects of this NLTP, and I have told you that it covers all livestock program. Also, pasturing, planting of grasses for the animals, raising corns, for the birds, they're also all part of the program, if you look at it. And that's why we say that it's for, economic activities and also for, security. How do we, look at it in terms of security? We believe that the headers that migrate, from the north to south, do this, in search of green pastures, in search of water, for example. And over time, this was not happening. We have traditional, headers who have lived with us for, quite a long time. And the insecurity or the conflict they constitute was always a very minor one. And the traditional heads of such village or hamlet would always settle it. But this migration by foot of cows, is such that the foreign headers, got involved, and they now come up with arms, and that is the real reason for the insecurity. We have no problem with the traditional headers who have been here with us. Don't forget that in each of the Southeast states, you have a settlement that is called, Hausa quarters. That's the way they name it, in all the states, and it's been there even before I was born, and it will continue to be there. And so the cows are brought by, trucks to those places and then taken to slaughterhouses. And the headers are living in various, localities, even intermarrying. So we don't have a problem with that. So we believe that if we have, ranches where you have land, and probably at the northern side, that headers, will be discouraged. But I doubt if they will be discouraged, those that honestly come with arms, who are not, Nigerians. I think Mr. President is doing something about the ECOWAS agreement. The governors have also, given some advice in regard to that people, because traditionally, even if you say there is free movement of animals, they must not come by foot. And again, there is a provision that they will be quarantined. So these are the key issues, and if that is sorted out, we do not have problems with our traditional headers in Southeast. Again and again, I say that Southeast governors have said they don't have one, continuous land to do any ranching, but they will participate in other forms of NLTP.
Well, could you talk to us about this, is it 3 billion naira NSAS Youth Empowerment Scheme that you're working on in the States? What is it about?
It's a national program. You know, after the NSAS started very well, very beautiful program, courageous children came together to take the future, their future in their hands. And everybody it was, in support of that because they were not making demands that were not reasonable. But unfortunately, the hoodlums, towards the end of the peaceful NSAS, protest, the hoodlums hijacked it. And even those who did not participate now came out as warlords and began to declare martial, war, taking charge of what they were not involved, what they did not participate, And so, at the end of the day, Mr. President kindly still said, let's look at the demands. And one of the demands is, to disband SARS, which Mr. President did, as a sign of leadership. But he further said that in all the states we should engage the youth. And the question is, youth, what do you want? How do you want to be governed? And I think that is the essence of the NSAS conference. So we now have a committee at NEC committee, headed by His Excellency the Vice President. And the idea is that all the states should do youth conference and then get delegates that will come to the zone. And the zonal conference of youth should also have delegates that will come to the national level. And this is what all the states are going to do. But maybe with the current level of insecurity, all the governors' minds are turned towards solving security challenges before doing that. This is what they're going to do. And our own conference yesterday was quite revealing. First, I wanted the organizers, who are mostly youth, government officials, to see how difficult governance is. And they saw it. They quarreled so much among themselves. And then you get to the participants, the youth delegates. It was tug of war, because I say you have to select 10 leaders. Till today we are talking, no local government has selected their 10 leaders. So it's quite tough, so that then we understand that, in the field of play, you play better when you're outside the field. But beautifully, they came up with communique, very beautiful. We're going to publish it, making, what they think should be the way forward for this country. And I saw it, I was very, very much impressed. And I said, I'm not disbanding them. Let's have a website for them. Let's see how we can engage them. The first 350, we send them for further training. But that is outside the 3 billion NSAS, youth empowerment program, which is being processed at the bank. So we open website in that regard and ask all the youths that are interested, to apply and give us proposal of what they want to do, with about the sum of 1 million. And they have done that. We got more than 10 times what number we requested, because we are looking at 3,000 youths to empower them with 1 million each. Of course, there are some of the youths whose proposal will be more than 1 million. So we are talking to a bank of industry to see how they can also support, in terms of bringing their own funds to make up for the use based on the proposal I've submitted to us. So this is what we're doing. So we have two segments of empowerment. The first empowerment is going to entirely come from these delegates, which is 1,500 from all the local government areas. And so we are going to engage them, in piecemeal kind of. That is to say that we take the first 350 and then retrain them based on the areas of interest and then empower them. But the other one is also a program, but it's been anchored by a bank. We gave it to the bank so that they can process this. We got over 15,000 applications in this regard. But don't forget that when you talk about government money, people believe that it's free. So even those who are working, those who have something doing, some appointed, because I have technical assistance, to the governor, 1,000. I did it to empower the youth. So I'm sure that a number of them would have also applied. So that's what it's all about.
Well, I mean, I think this initiative is quite important because sadly, when you look at statistics of people arrested, for crimes and all, you see that a large chunk of them are young people. But one of the statements that caught the attention of Nigerians from the summit is when you asked youths to remove their minds from politics and succeed first. And I mean, you just mentioned that you have 1,100 technical assistants, 2,000 Ebonians who occupy political positions, 100 executive council members, 90% of them are youths. So it looks like politics is lucrative. So when you tell them, wait a minute, don't look to politics, yet most of the people appointed, I mean, over 3,000 of them are mostly youths. How do you want them to take that statement?
You see, why should, I asked a professor yesterday how much you earn. Professor told me 300,000. Then you ask yourself, how much does a commissioner earn? A commissioner earns, more than that. Then a councillor, earns over 100 and something thousand. Then, as a young man growing up, after schooling, you just see yourself, why should I go and become a civil servant? Or why should I start a business when I can sit, in my house, sleeping and waking up, and then I will earn this amount of money? Not knowing also that along the line, the money becomes so small in your hand. So what I mean by that is that politics has dealt with, African countries so badly. If you look at nations that are being ruled by monarchs, I'm not advocating for that, but there is stability. The moment you enter office, from the first day, they start telling you about the next, election, and this is very unfortunate. So I think seriously that if our youth will look more in terms of self-development, one of the key things that I was told yesterday by one of the resource persons is that we must develop the minds of the youth. Because the youth have been a kind of deprived. The future was not prepared for them. So you have to first of all give them hope. Because without hope, life is meaningless. So you have to give them hope by way of telling them, look, you can develop an alternative to this politics. That's exactly the statement that I meant yesterday. You develop yourself. There is alternative to this cheap money, because I think that there is a misconception about politics, about leadership, about giving the opportunity to serve. It's not opportunity to serve yourself, it's opportunity to serve the people. But there's a misconception. Most people believe that politics is all about going to make money, but that's not the intention. So I think that our people will do much better if they go into self-determination, if they go into doing things with their hands. And I tell you, whether we know it or not, all over the world, those who still control politics are the people that have the money. And so they can make the money, and then they can participate in politics if they want to.
Your Excellency, I think we have a challenge that I'd like you to speak to. On the one hand, we have a youth bulge, as defined by the United Nations. A good number, more than average, the number of people who are Nigerians are youths. And the initiative that you've come up with, most certainly beautiful. The challenge here, Your Excellency, that I see is that of sustainability. So if we can have a kind of projection of how this project can be sustained, so that, just as you said, we haven't prepared the youth for the future, but the future is not going to pause. The future is most certainly on its way. So if you can, by way of projection, look forward, say 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what kind of youth do we want to produce now that will lead the nation in the next 10 to 20 years? As a nation, what do you think we should be looking in terms of preparing the young generation for the future that is certain, though bleak?
I think the most important thing is, self-realization. Is for the youth to understand. For example, one of the points they raised yesterday in their communique was that there should be an act of not too young, to run. And there should also be an act of not too old. Not too old to run. Too old to run, not too young to run. And I say it's in your hands. It's in your hands. Because if people will engage you to go and burn police stations, if people will engage you to destroy basic infrastructure that is, intended for your future, then what kind of youth are you? So I think there is very important aspect, and that is mental engagement of youth. You have to tell them whom they are. We gave examples of, our beginning. For example, I came from a very poor background, but with determination, along with my other brothers and sisters, we are working hard. There is no quick fix for this thing. We must be able to turn the minds of our youth to working hard, to having alternative means of, this. Like in my state, every political office holder has another, they call it second address. If you don't have agricultural, program, you are not in my government. This is very important. So I think that what happens is what we are doing. We have this 1,500 youths, and we say, look, we are going to develop you, but you have to mentor 12 other people in your locality. So each of them is going to have another 12 people that are going to mentor. Mentoring is not about giving money. It's about telling people whom they are. It's telling people, yes, you have hope, you can do it. There is future in this country. People have given up in this country, but that is not the truth. I gave them my theme of remarks yesterday, is that youth, be an offer to the world that the world cannot resist. Be an offer to the world. We are still looking for people for employment everywhere, but we're looking for the best. This is very important. So the sustainability is going to be such that it's going to be like a link chain. So this 1,500 is going to have 12 people, the mentor, and then we also try to assist them to empower them. And there are so much programs of the national government in line with this, that I think there is a need to reevaluate them, because sometimes government money is looked as cheap money. People don't really use it well, and that's why we're using banks in doing some of these things. So I think it's sustainable. The moment the youth know that the future is theirs, and that as you make your bed, you lie on it, they will take up the cause of their destinies.
All right, then, Your Excellency Dave Umahi, Governor of Ebonyi State, thank you very much indeed for talking to us this morning.
Chamberlain, thank you very much.
All right, and let's take a look at some of the messages coming through from you. We've got this one from Henry. It says, Governor Umahi is right about labor engaging proactively and resourcefully. Can any wage provide housing and transportation for workers in Abuja or Lagos? What happened to other components of monetization program? If something must improve, another must give way.
Quite interesting perspective there. From Larry, says, of course, on minimum wage and VAT, interestingly, I'm at loss with the narration of our governor requesting for negotiation on minimum wage after pushing for VAT rate increase. Let's reverse the rate to 5%, he says. Oh, interesting there.
5%. Okay.
Very interesting. Okay, this one is coming from Olaguju, and he says, the civil servants are not that much to the Nigerian government. Government believes that a sustainable minimum wage is a way to share the nation's wealth with them. That's why they employ more PAs and special advisors with special packages, attractive packages.
Well, this one is from Sam, talking about accountability in governance. The governor talks about patriotism, yet everywhere you look, you see avoidable wastages. Which countries in the world do you see governors use SUVs and fly private jets around our leaders? Look in the mirror.
Oh, there you go. Let's see. Which one's next,
That's
guys?
Owa, I think. Victor sends one.
Okay, from Victor saying, as long as legislators are not on minimum wage, Senator Dotti's bill is illegal. Legislators versus labor is a case of monkey they work, baboon they chop.
Okay.
Both have their roles, but both must be on minimum wage. There you go, Victor.
I don't have an opinion on that as well. Musa says here, there's a 3-point agenda, so to speak. This minimum wage topic is an embarrassment, in my opinion. Questions are, 1, does this wage take care of works? 2, why is no National Assembly member raising a bill to cut their wage and allowances? And 3, why are they not reducing their staff and advisors' wage? Wait a minute, who does that really?
Oh, interesting. Well, after that one, you've got Shegs saying, no, I think Dr. Kwenosa is there as well. He says, rather than reduce minimum wage because of inability to pay, we should boost the productive capacities of states to generate more revenue. And that's the subject matter.
Oh, yes.
Yes. It's really out there.
I think we can do better. Okay, well, so more messages. Shags and the rest. Kingsley, thank you so much for contributing to the program today.
Well, that's the show today. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. Please keep safe in the day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
I'm Kayode Okikiodu.
We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso.